this okay?
Yep.
Yeah. So if I have to hold a clicker and a mic, then I don't know what to do with my hand. So before I get into what I'm going to talk about, I have two things I want to say about something Dan brought up early in the first session this morning. Because I believe that if you hear the stuff in Bellwether, that's one thing. Then you have to process the stuff that you hear. That helps. But when it's corroborated by another party, that's when it begins to be real. And so the story that Dan told at the beginning of the morning about generational wealth and how it's created through strategic debt and how you shouldn't want to get out of debt. I've heard him say that a bunch. As a matter of fact, he came and worked with me back before I exited my company. We were talking and he was sharing that whole same story. First 3 or 4 times I heard him say that, I didn't believe him. And you might be one of those people today, like that doesn't make any sense to me. Because Dave Ramsey's so much of an anchor in your brain that this nut here in California is like, no, he's got to be wrong. I think it was today, this morning, that it finally, after all this time of hearing it and processing it, I know the truth of it. And I'm going to tell you my quick story about this. In 2016, 17, moving into 18, I cleared all the debt that I had, everything. I didn't have a lot. I had a truck payment, I had a HELOC on the house and a couple of things, but not much. But I cleared it all. And then 2018 was my highest earning income year ever. Still, I earned more that year than any other. And I'm on my way to earn more this year, I hope. So we'll see. But in 2018, 100% of the debt was gone. 100%. And debt-free, it feels good. I will say that. It does feel good. But what he said is that when you get out of debt, it lowers your resistance and your income will drop like a rock. Holy crap. 2019, worst year I've ever had. And actually the worst year, not just financially, there was a whole lot of crap that went on that year. I had a business partner termination, I had an issue with a family member, I had a friend stab me in the back over a business deal. It was bad. Now, I'm not saying all that happened because I paid off my truck. but like when he was saying that this morning, I wrote that down. I'm like, here's what I should have done, and here's what I think you should do. If you want to get out of debt, and we're talking about consumer debt, right? Consumer debt, strategic debt, two different things. But if you want to get out of consumer debt, not a bad idea, but instead of just paying it off and having more cash flow, go buy stupid stuff, why don't you take that lump sum of money and extra cash flow, buy an asset that will create money for you? That's what I should have done, I didn't do. So that's one thing I want to say. The second thing is that in the Law of the Caterpillar, I've heard this. I remember the first time I listened to the Law of Caterpillar, I was sitting in Nashville at the airport in the private jet section. I was about to get on a private plane with one of the guys that I was using as a coach at the time. We were flying to Chicago to do this thing and coming back in the same day. And so I'm sitting there waiting by myself for everybody to get there, and I had my laptop open, and that law was the next one. So I put in my earbuds and I'm listening, and it didn't make sense to me when it got to step 4. You can't sell anything. Oh, that's not what it says. You can't sell a product or a service. And I went back and listened to that, and a whole flight up to Chicago, I'm thinking, that doesn't make any damn sense. I don't understand this. And I listened to it again and again and again and again, and it didn't make any sense. Well, it's finally now making sense to me because I feel like I'm like baby stepping into stage 4 because now it's about my vision as a business coach. And here is my vision. And Amy was so kind we sat down today and talked about this at lunch to say, I love that. I'm in on that. And I want all of you to feel the same way. But my vision is to see 100,000 entrepreneurs set free from the ironic prison of entrepreneurship. That's what I want to see happen. But not just that, then I want to see 10,000 people, I want to help them rise out of poverty and mediocrity through the vehicle of entrepreneurship. You know how I'm going to do that? With 100,000 people that we got out of the prison of entrepreneurship, the people grinding and hustling, staying in it every day. Once they get out with my help and the things that I do, which I'm going to share with you part of that today, then we're going to go and we're going to find one person at a time. I'm not talking about homeless guys on the street. That's somebody else's deal. That ain't mine. I'm talking about somebody who's just struggling. They've got an idea. They want to be an entrepreneur. They want to be a business owner. They don't know how to do it. With guys in my mastermind, I want to go and say, you know what? We're going to, quote, adopt or whatever, sponsor this one dude for a year. We might spend $60,000, $75,000 on this guy and say, we'll do everything. We got a group of guys here that are all very wealthy and very successful. We're going to show you how to start a business, sustain a business, scale a business, and ultimately escape the prison of it so that you can be wealthy too. So that's my vision. And I'm moving into that. And if you're into that, we should talk, because that's what I want to do. All right, so now let me get into my talk. So I want to talk about freedom of time. We mentioned this a couple of times today. Everything I want to talk about starts with this statement right here. What I think about, I bring about. You've heard it? Maybe? Anybody? Yep. Yeah. When I was a kid, my dad, he was a retired Navy Reserves, worked for AT&T, retired from AT&T. And he had a desk at our house. But he never sat at that desk. To this day, I don't think he's ever sat at that. I've never seen him sit at the desk, but he had this huge desk in our house. And on the desk, there was this little pen holder, like you put pins in, little cup with cork board around it, like a cube, on a Lazy Susan. So it would spin all four sides of a cork board, and you could put pins in the middle. And the only things pinned to that, my entire childhood, the only thing pinned to that cork board was a business card for a realtor that I don't know who that was, and a little note, handwritten note with this on it. My whole life. And it wasn't until Christmas of 2022, a couple of months ago, that I'm sitting down, because I've spent the last year diving deep into Napoleon Hill's stuff. Think of Grow Rich, like I'm deep, I'm really, really deep. Now, we don't know who said this quote, but his stuff is about this, right? And so I asked Dad at Christmas, I'm like, Dad, because I asked for some Napoleon Hill books and stuff for Christmas, so they got it for me. And I said, what about this thing you remember that? He goes, oh yeah. And my mom knew it too. She goes, oh yeah, that note. And we kind of laughed about it. And I said, where did you get that? He goes, I don't know, I heard it somewhere and I thought it was neat. So my whole life, this thing has been staring me in the face. And now today, it's part of the center of who I am as a business coach and as a professional. Because what you are experiencing in your time is directly related to the way you think about it. Like nothing in this world is in reality that we didn't first think about. This little clicker, somebody thought about first, and then now it's here. So your reality and how you spend your time, or lack thereof, is only the result of what you're thinking about. That's it. So I want you to keep that as a background. Everything we talk about is what you think about. It comes from what you think about. I want to share with you some things I believe. Number one, I believe that the hustle culture is damaging to entrepreneurs.
Amen, brother.
I think it's damaging to their families. And all these Instagram and TikTok gurus sitting on the hood of their Lambos and G-Wagons telling you it's all about the hustle, man. It's all about the grind. No, it's not. Because that's what keeps people trapped. Now, for the first year, I would even forgive the second year. Maybe you're hustling, right? Maybe you got to put in a lot of hours, maybe. But beyond that, you're a prisoner. You're a prisoner to your own thing. I believe this is damaging. What else I believe is I believe that business ownership isn't the goal. I believe that it should be the means by which we support the lifestyle we truly want to live. And I'm all about this thing called the exit lifestyle. I want to live the exit lifestyle. As if I sold my business and became a multi-whatever ever, person. Whatever that number is for you. I want to live now. I don't want to wait, because that date doesn't come for most people. 2% of businesses sell in a way that makes the person financially independent. In this room, we only know one for sure that did it. Maybe you did too, but we know that was a financially independent moment for him. 1.7 billion, I think that qualifies. But that doesn't happen for most people, yet we hold out for that moment that we're gonna sell. And I don't think that's what we should be waiting on. I think the business ownership, that right now you can live the exit lifestyle without having to sell it, which is right here. I believe that you can build a business that doesn't require 40 hours a week. I've got a course, one of the courses I teach is called the 10-Hour Entrepreneur. I have a free group on LinkedIn, it's private, but called the 10-Hour Entrepreneur Group. If you want to join, I believe that you could do this. And not only do I believe it, I did it. And when Dan met me, I was working 50, 60, 70 hours a week in my lighting company. And what I learned through this organization helped me get to where I spend maybe 10 hours a year on that business. I don't do anything with it. Every once in a while I get an email, hey, we need you to sign something. Oh, okay, and I'll go and I'll sign it. That's about it. I believe you can do this because I did it. It's not theory. And then here's where it really gets down to what I want to talk about today. I believe that delegation is your key to freedom. But everybody everybody says yes, and you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Because nobody does. Nobody does. I didn't. I thought I was a great delegator. I was running a very successful multi-million-dollar company as a former pastor and unemployed school teacher who started a company in the industry he didn't know anything about. I thought I was pretty good at delegation. It turns out I wasn't, because when I sat down with my business coach in 2017, 2018, things were going really well. He goes, do you want to do this company long term? Like, no, I'd like to sell it. He goes, well, you can't, because it's not worth anything. The whole story that Dan just told this morning is my story. Because the company revolved around this guy right here. I was the hero. I was the hero of the business. So I believe that delegation is your first key to true freedom as an entrepreneur. But most people don't know what it is. So let me talk about what it is, what it really is. There are three things that delegation is, but most people only think it's this one. They think it's just about assigning a task. It's about, hey, I've got something that needs to be done, or maybe I don't want to do it, and I'm going to give it to you to do it. That's delegation. No, it's 1/3 of delegation. Delegation actually is also about entrusting and empowering that thing to a third party, to another person. The law of hindrance tells us that if we're not experiencing success in any particular area of our lives, it could be relegated to one of two or both of these things. Anybody know what they are? Lack of trust, and what was the other one? Discipline. Right. And so when you want to delegate, truly delegate, it's not just giving the task, it's also about entrusting it to someone and then empowering them to be able to carry that task out. Now, what does that look like in real life? Well, there are three questions that must be answered when you delegate a task to somebody. So if I'm going to delegate a task, we're going to use Bob. Is anybody named Bob? I know there's a Bobby. Anybody named Bob in here? Okay, I always use Bob as my example, and I wonder if the person named Bob in the crowd is like, why do you got to use my name? But here are three questions that if we're going to delegate to Bob, that we must answer. Beyond the what it is, we're going to assume for a minute that you're not so stupid that you would give Bob a task that he doesn't know what it is. So we're going to assume he knows what it is. The first question that you have to answer for Bob is, why is he having to do the task? And it can't be just because you don't want to do it. It's got to be about why the task is important to the overall mission. And I'll give you an example. I hired a new assistant in November, anyway, a few months ago, Kiara, and she's fantastic. And Kiara came in one day, and we worked for 5 hours on email. That's it. Not answering emails, on how to do emails. Like how to send them, because I send 3 to 4 to my contacts every week. And we do promotions of my podcast, my webinars. Of course, I do pitches. I'm trying to get people to enroll in courses and stuff. But 5 hours, and in the middle of it, I had this moment of awareness going, man, if I just did this myself, I wouldn't be wasting 5 hours. But I explained some of this stuff to her, and she was like, yeah, I get it. But then here's what happened. In the middle of that 5 hours, there was a moment where I stepped back, because I could hear her. She's a great employee, so she was going to do whatever I said. But I stepped back and I went, but Kiara, here's why we want to do it this way. And when I did that next sentence and told her why, now you tell me, was she going to do the task before I shared why? Sure. Yep. But how much better is she going to do once she went, now I know. So that's the first question. The second question is how. Now, some tasks are so specific that you actually have to show step to step. But beyond that, most aren't. What I mean by answering the question how is what technology, what tools, what resources are available to Bob to get the task done. Because if you just say, hey Bob, I need you to do this, and here's why I need you to do it, but you don't give him the technology or the resources to do it, he might think he has to go out and invent the way to do it. And you're like, no, we have a tool back in the warehouse. Like, that's what you use to do this. Oh, I didn't know. So the how. And then the third question is when. When does this thing do? Right? When is this due? So a lot of times entrepreneurs will assign a task to somebody. They'll explain the why and the how, but then not tell them what the due date is. And if it's a recurring task and it has to be done on a regular basis, they do it perfectly, but miss that date. Maybe it's every Tuesday for a vendor connect, where a vendor has to be connected so that you don't lose that relationship, and they do it on Thursdays. Well, your vendor thinks you're not doing your job, right? So this why, this how, and the when are really strategically important to real delegation. This is what real delegation is. Now, here's what a lot of entrepreneurs actually practice: confiscation. Now, if you can imagine for a minute, we're going to use a pendulum. You know, a pendulum swings right and left. Delegation is in the center of what we really should be doing, right? The assign, the entrust, the empower, answer the why, the how, the when. This is where we live. But a lot of entrepreneurs swing out to one side and they confiscate. And here's what confiscation looks like. Bob, come here. I need to tell you something. Here's what I need you to do, why to do it, how to do it, when to do it, the whole thing. You do it right. And then Bob starts to do the task, and you are looking over his shoulder, and you say, Bob, you know, man, if you did it this way, it'd be better. And he's like, okay, boss. He goes and does it that way. And then the next day, you look over his shoulder, and Bob, no, man, you're screwing that up. Do it this way. And then the next day, Bob, no, you're not. Just give it to me. I'll do it. You ever done that? Like right in the middle of that 5 hours of email, I was ready to do that. I was ready to take it back. This is what a lot of people practice. Anybody do this? Anybody do this? Yeah. The other side of that pendulum is this word, abdication. And abdication is not a word we hear a lot, but it's like when you give up the rights to something, like a king abdicating the throne. And what abdication looks like is we go to Bob and we say, hey, Bob, I need you to do this. And he's like, okay. And then you're like, good luck. And that's it. This is my sin as an entrepreneur. This is what I've done. I've done this way too much. But neither of these is real delegation. Neither of those is real delegation. Now, question that we've answered already, but I'm going to ask again. Of these two images, which one is more important to you? Money or time? Now, you know, one of the intake forms on a new client that I coach, I ask the question, which of these options, which is most important, time and money? The people who answer money, I don't give a call to. I don't talk to. Now, I might eventually get a call, but I will email them and say, you answered this. I need to know why you said money. I need to know why you said money. Because I need to weed out the people that are only interested in money. I'm not interested in working for you if you want that. But I want you to think about this. This resource right here, money, is renewable. We've heard a lot about renewable resources, right? Money is a renewable resource. You spend it, you can get it back. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, but you can spend it and you can get it back. Time, on the other hand, is a non-renewable resource. If somebody says, hey, can I borrow you for a minute? Nope, because they can't pay it back. It's not a payback thing. You can't pay back. Now, you want to borrow $100 grand? Maybe. Like, we could maybe talk about that, but you can't borrow 5 minutes unless that 5 minutes has a definite thing we're trying to accomplish. So we, as entrepreneurs, have to think about this. And this whole thing about delegation gives us this time thing. This is where we're at. So are we spending money to get time, or are we spending time to get money? Now, a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we make fun of the W-2 earners who trade this for this. Oh, you people, you sad, sorry people, just go and punch a clock, you're trading. Well, are you doing anything different? Just because you don't have a clock to punch, are you still the same? Are you doing the same thing? Are you trading those hours that you put in to get money? Well, why would you trade something you can't get back for something that you can get back? Should we do the other? Shouldn't you trade this for this? That's what I want to do. Dan's talked about the apprenticeship program, hiring assistants, bringing on interns. That's a great idea. Bringing on a new apprentice. He starts Tuesday. Can't wait. He's excited. I'm excited because I'm trading a little bit of this for a lot of this. There was a book that came out in 2013 written by Gail Thomas called The Gift of Time. And she did a study, and this is what she found. She found that 53% of business owners believe they can grow their business by 20% if they just delegated 10% of their tasks. Now think about that. Like if you got 100 things you got to do every week, if you just got rid of 10, your bottom line goes up by 20%. Would you do that? Would you trade that? What if it cost you money to do it? I'd still do it, right? I'd still want to do that. She also said this, time is the biggest barrier to delegation, yet ironically it's what delegation saves the most of. Going back to my 5 hours of email with Kiera, like I could have said, I don't have 5 hours. Then I'd spend an hour a week for the rest of my life. Or I could do 5 hours with her and not have to worry about it ever again. Like which one do you want to do? So what we have is called the hero syndrome. We are the hero of our businesses. We swoop in, we take the S on our chest, and we solve every problem, save the day, and we're losing time. Time is most important. It's the most important thing we need to be paying attention to. Now I'm going to show you a picture here. This is a picture of the campus at the University of Cumberland in southeastern Kentucky. It's a beautiful campus. It's a private school, and this is where I went to go get my PhD. And funny story about this. I didn't finish. I gave you the punchline. I did not finish. But I have a master's. I have a bachelor's, and I thought, well, you know what? I've got a degree. I've got a bachelor's degree in ministry. I've got a master's degree in education. So how about a PhD in business? That'd be great. I'll do the trifecta. Like, I'm a coach. This is what I do. I can help people. And so I went to this school. And my wife was like, why are you doing this again? Like, are you going to make more money? Like, no, I own the company. I'm not going to pay myself more because I come home with a PhD. So she got me to thinking, like, maybe I'm only here to learn one thing. And when I find it, maybe I'll just get out. And what I learned was this. Theory of power load margin. Sounds really heavy. It's not. It's pretty easy. But it explains all this delegation stuff and why delegation is so important. And so there's this guy. His name was Howard Yale McCluskey. He was a sociologist who studied gerontology. Anybody know what gerontology is?
Study
of older people. And to put it in a very crass way, his whole study revolved around, can you teach an old dog new tricks? Like, that was what he was trying to figure out. These people living in nursing homes or elderly, they have the capacity to do new things. And so he came up with this theory of power load margin, this thing, or margin theory. I reduce it to margin theory. It's easier to talk about. And what he discovered is that if they had margin, they could do new stuff, and they would be able to do new things. Now, if you got a piece of paper, or what's that vertical red line or dark line? That's a what line? It's a margin line. If you have a book and you open a book, what's around the edges? Margin, space. It's extra. It's the extra around the edges. Funny story. Do you know how margins got started? Like, this is a true story. I had to look it up because I was so enthralled. He was studying gerontology in old people, and my business brain's going, this is a great business concept. And so margins in books became about because in the 1400s, when Johann Gutenberg invented the printing press, they were so excited to have a press to print that we didn't have to write on. They would print from side to side, top to bottom, whole page, no margin. And that's okay, except for the fact when they bound it in a book, put it in storage or in shipment, that mice and rats would eat the edges. Have you ever got mice into paper? Like, they love, that's what they love. They love to eat it. And so what would happen is the person who got the book would open it up and they'd get to page 42 and they're missing stuff. They don't know how it ended. And so the printer said, maybe we should put margins to account for any unexpected events, like a mouse eating the edge of the page. Our lives need to have the same thing. We need to have margins. So gerontology studies, older folks said they can't learn new stuff unless they have the margin to do so. And our life as entrepreneurs, as business leaders, success only happens here. It only happens in the margin. You ever seen somebody just so busy they couldn't be successful? Too busy for success? It's because they have no margin. So there's this ratio that he talked about called the margin ratio. And it's represented by these three letters, P, L, and M. This is actually pretty fascinating. P stands for power, L stands for load, M stands for margin. So power, just to break it down, power is the ability to deal with anything. So power could be mental power. You're getting that here. You're coming here, you're receiving power. You're going to go home, lift it up, you have power. Power could be finances. Like if you have enough money, that's power. Power could be physical power, like if you work out and exercise, you have physical power. So power is your ability to deal with it, whatever it is. L is the load. L is the stuff you have to do. It's your to-do list. It's everything on your list that you ever have to do. That's load. Now, this is infinite. Like as soon as you mark something off the list, man, what's going to happen? It's like bunnies, man. Like they just reproduce. This is finite. So you have to pay attention where you get it. That's why having a business coach, and I know that sounds self-serving because that's why having a business coach is so important. It's why being in a mastermind is so important. It's why being in Bellwether is so important because you need this. Watch and listen to podcasts. Watch YouTube videos. You need power. Because what Howard Yale McCluskey says is that margin can be achieved by increasing power or decreasing load, or both. And when the ratio looks like this is good. When power is greater than load, hunky-dory, that's great, that's what we want. But most of us live like this. Our load is greater than our ability to deal with it, and we have no margin. We don't have the ability to handle this stuff. So we want to be like this. So I want you to think about what's on your load list. One of the things I do in my 10-hour entrepreneur course, so I take my clients through, is we create a load list. And it's a big time exercise. You can't do it right now, it'll take too long. But you just write down, at my brain dump, everything that you have to do on a regular basis. All the stuff that you gotta do. And that's a big, long list. And then we do something called a power list. And we say, okay, what's on your power list? How are you getting power? That list is a lot shorter. So you gotta pay attention to the margins and going back and forth. Now, why do I bring up margin theory when I talk about delegation and time? Because I want you to understand that success only happens in the margins. And if you're going to have margin, you've got to increase power or decrease load, or both. And the easier one of those things to do is to just decrease load. That's the easiest. It doesn't mean the only thing, but it's the one thing you should start with. So what I'm going to share with you as we finish up in this portion of this is I'm going to give you something I call the training wheels to delegation. I'm going to show you how to do this so that you get more margin in your life, which in turn gets you more time, which makes you successful. Now, I remember when I was a kid, my mom and dad and my little brother and I lived in a duplex in East Nashville with my grandparents. They lived in one side, we lived in the other side. And that duplex was destroyed in the 1997 tornado that hit Nashville, unfortunately, so it's not still there. But I remember as a kid playing at that house a lot, because my grandparents were there full time, so it was awesome. I was a little kid, so it was like pre-kindergarten, so it was like I was 5 and less, 5 and under. And in the backyard had a long hill that went down, and there was a gully. I don't know if you know what a gully is, but like it's the place where the water washes out, and it's actually paved, it's concrete. It's great for skateboarding, right? It's like a half pipe. And I was always told, don't go down to the gully. And so I did go down the gully. And so my grandmother was home with me alone, just the two of us. And I snuck out and went down into the gully, and I crawled in, and I was having a blast. And but I couldn't get out. It was too steep. Getting in's easy, getting out's not. So I'm just screaming, Grandmama! Like forever. And my grandmother finally hears me, and she comes down there. She tries to pull me out. Well, she can't pull me out. So she crawls down in there with me to get me out. And then she can't push me out. Like, she can't have me out. So she goes, well, I'll just get out and go get help. Well, she can't get out. Now here we are. All of us stuck in the gully until my dad got home.
Wow.
Now, besides that moment, my dad was a really great guy. He taught me how to ride a bike. And this is where the training wheels comes in. So I had a Schwinn Spider with a banana seat and the U handlebars, like the with training wheels. And I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. It was gold, sparkly, it was great. And just like all kids, I learned to ride on training wheels. And there was the day when the training wheels were taken off. You remember that?
Yes.
Remember that? Were you there? Like, okay. So the training wheels got taken off. What happened is Dad would just hold the back of the seat and walk behind me as I went down the sidewalk on Setliff Place in East Nashville. And we'd go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And one time we were going a lot faster than we had ever gone before. And we got to the end of the sidewalk, and I put my foot down, and I looked up, and I was going to say, Dad, that was awesome. And he was not there. I'd been riding the bike for the first time by myself. Now, what I'm about to show you in this training wheels delegation is not the permanent way to delegate. And I tell that long story because I want you to understand is that what I'm going to show you is not something you do every time you delegate. This is to show you how to become a delegator. And once you become a delegator, some of this stuff won't apply anymore. But this is training wheels. So here's what you're going to do. Number one, you're going to make a top 10 list of all the things that you do on a regular basis that could be done by someone else. So this is going to come from your load list, right? The things, all the crap you have to pay attention to, all the things you have to do. So make a top 10 list. It doesn't have to be in order. It doesn't have to be any particular reason. Just the things that you're doing that other people could be doing. And it takes some honesty. You got to ditch the cape as the hero, and you got to really think, okay, what am I doing that other people could be doing? And the second thing is you're going to delegate one of those items, just one, for 30 days. Now, delegation has three things: assign, what? Entrust, and empower. And there's three questions you have to answer: the why, the how, and the when. So make sure that you do it right. Don't just assign it. Now, because you're only doing it for 30 days, when you call Bob into your office and you say, hey, I want you to do this job, he knows it's 30 days. You know it's 30 days, right? There's no pressure. Third step, check in once a week. No more and no less. Now, how many times are you going to check in over 30 days, math wizards? Just 4 times. This is not a lot. So let's say you tell Bob, we're going to check in every week at 9 o'clock on Thursday mornings, and that's our plan. So you tell Bob this: Bob, we're only going to check in on Thursdays at 9 o'clock. If you have questions, you can always come to me, but I'm not going to come and ask you. Because if I check in with Bob more, what do I risk? Confiscation. If I check in with Bob less, what do I risk? Abdication. So this once a week is really important. Again, training wheels, folks. And don't think that just because you know how to ride a bicycle, you know how to delegate. Because it's probably not true. Now, number 4 is the hardest one. And I'm thankful that I'm among bellwether people, because Dan already softened the landing how hard this one's going to be with his talk earlier. When you check in, you can only praise, you cannot correct. So when you meet with Bob, and you sit down with Bob, and he comes in and he didn't do it right, you got to look at Bob and go, Bob, I'm really, really impressed by that tie. This is a good tie. It's a good looking tie. Now, besides the fact that the architect shouldn't be correcting people, that Dan talked about earlier, here's why you don't correct. What's the law of discovery teach us? The law of discovery teaches us that we learn more about what we discover on our own than what we're told. I was told not to go to the gully. Later that afternoon, with my hind end burning, I knew why I wasn't supposed to go down to the gully. Your kid didn't learn to not touch the candle because you said it was hot. He had to touch the candle. Bob has to screw up. That's part of the process. He's got to screw up. So you can only praise Bob, and you can't correct him. You can't tell him what he did wrong, because he's not going to learn. Now, caveats to that, because I know there's some of you who are skeptics right now saying, but, okay, so if somebody's going to go to jail, yes, step in. If the building's going to explode or burn down, probably should correct it. And if somebody, if you're going to lose a substantial amount of money, then maybe. But beyond that, and we all know those are not going to happen, you just let Bob fail. Because I want you to remember, when you first started this task, you sucked at it too. All right, 5th step is your 80% rule. The 80% rule just simply means this: when Bob can do it at 80% of the desired outcome, it is now no longer on your list. You're only looking for 80%. You can't look for perfection. I hired a guy named Ricky, right out of he just finished his master's degree at Belmont in Nashville, to be my first operations employee 10 years ago. Up to that point, I had been doing all the audits, all the lighting audits, we did LED lighting in hospitals and big warehouses, and I was the guy counting lights. I was the guy ordering the lights. I was the guy doing all the project management. And I hired Ricky to do it. Millennial, right? And millennials are only supposed to stay with you, what, 2 or 3 years? I think that's the turnover rate. It's been with me 10. So I told Ricky, I said, here's what I want you to do. And Ricky was not very good at it at first. But today Ricky's better than I ever was at that. And when he got to 80%, I quit doing it. I quit going on audits. I didn't do it anymore. He made his own plans and did his own procedures, and he did a great job at it. So the 80% rule is about getting Bob to 80%. And then the final step is to repeat that process every 30 days until your list is empty and you are free from the ironic prison of entrepreneurship. Now, you might be doing this in your head thinking the math. Look, if I only do one task and I got 10, and I do it every 30 days, Jason, it's going to take me 10 months to get all this. No, because after the first month, you're going to get a hang of this. And then the second month, you might do 3. And then the fourth month, you might do the rest. You might get rid of everything. But this is your training wheels. I promise you that if you do this, you get time. You will get this back. And now the delegation might cost you some money. You might have to hire somebody because you don't have anybody. Maybe you got to put technology in place because you used to do it, the duct tape and WD-40 way, like whatever it took. Like you got to buy some stuff. Spend the money. Spend the money. If you can accelerate your exit, you can accelerate your freedom by spending money. Write the check. Write the check. This is your key to freedom. Freedom of time. And my vision is to see 100,000 of people just like you set free from the ironic prison of entrepreneurship. To not run a business 60, 70, 80 hours a week. To enjoy business ownership as it was intended to be as the way to provide you to live the lifestyle that you truly want to live. So I've got just time to answer a few questions if anybody has any questions about anything I just taught.
Totally clear.
Yes, so thank you.
How
Yes.
do you define like the line between hiring somebody and training them how to do it versus just hiring out and giving it up to an agency who is already specializing in certain aspects?
I think either one is appropriate. It just depends on what you need. So if you have an employee on staff who could possibly do one of those top 10 things, start there because it's a sunk cost anyway. You're already paying this person. If you don't have anybody who could do that, you need to then first ask yourself, does this even need to happen? Maybe you need to eliminate. It isn't about a delegating. Maybe it's just eliminating, getting the task off. But then beyond that, if it has to be done, you don't have anybody to do it, then maybe look at a VA, overseas VA, or just a onshore VA, or is there technology that can do this for you? I use VAs quite successfully. I've had one who burned me for some money, like that was a whole long story, but mostly I've had good experience with VAs. I've got 2 in Philippines and 1 in Uganda right now that do stuff for me. So, good question.
Is that the secret to retention, hiring VAs overseas, or how do you incentivize guys to stay? They leave with a lot of experience and knowledge. You have to start over again.
Which persons are you saying are leaving?
Well, you have people here. Sometimes, my experience is that you spend a lot of time investing, to where you can delegate.
Yeah.
And 8 months, 9 months, you teach them really well, and you leave, and you have to repeat this process. Yeah.
That's probably a culture thing more than it is a delegation, honestly. Because if the culture, I go back to Ricky as my example. He's a millennial. He's not supposed to stay at my company for 10 years, but he is. So it's because of the time and effort I spent on building culture, which I didn't address, of course, but I think that's a culture question more than delegation. And it's not an indictment against a bad culture. It just may need a tweak to make people realize there's more opportunity, recognition, and money here than there would be somewhere else.
Yeah, I teach freedom and independence, and then it's like, hey, I'm teaching guys freedom and independence, and I'm trying to keep them there to stay healthy through the time, right?
Yeah, well, that is the catch-22, isn't it? I mean, if we want our people to grow and grow up beyond us, and we allow them to spread their wings and fly, we can't hold them back. But I think if you have the conversation with Bob and say, hey Bob, listen, I'm going to train you everything you need to know. And if at any time you decide you want to take these skills and go somewhere else, there is a non-compete. You don't have to wait 5 years, which I highly recommend. But beyond that, I would say that you've got to give Bob the idea that there's a bigger plan here. And if you ever did want to leave, let's just work together to make sure that you don't leave me with a hole. All right, Bob? Yeah, boss, I got it.
Just to piggyback off this question, when you're looking at VAs, say from the Philippines, what kind of characteristics might you be looking for when you're hiring? There's just so many, and it's hard to identify talent.
Same ones I'd look to hire an American. I mean, the short answer. So my hiring process with a Filipino VA is going to be slightly adapted only because it's all digital and I'll never see these people in real life. But it's pretty much the same hiring process that I would take anybody I'd hire here for. So Jade, who is my podcast manager in the Philippines, she's 27-year-old single mom with a 7-year-old autistic daughter. I ask her how her daughter's doing. She tells me when her daughter's sick. She sends me pictures of them at the fair, just like I would any other employee. So when I hired her, I went through the same thing. I did an interview, I did it by Zoom. You know, English is pretty good for most Filipinos, so she spoke English really well. I tested her ability to write because she was going to be communicating with all my podcast guests by email. So I did all the things that were required by that particular role, and she is awesome. I think one day, I don't need it yet, but one day I'll probably say to her, what do you need to not work for anybody else? Because do you know the average USD salary of an administrative assistant in the Philippines? Anybody want to give an idea? Like their annual salary, they live just like anybody here who would have an average administrative assistant. You know what it is annually?
20,000.
$3,800. A year. 3780 something specifically. So again, that's part of what I teach in one of my courses is that to understand that they don't cost that much and you're not taking advantage of them.
Right.
I pay Jade $100 every payday, which is I pay twice a month. That's it. $100 a payday. And I'm not taking advantage of her. And that's the thing we got to get through our brain. It's not, she just got LASIK surgery on her eyes. Like, I helped pay for that. And I told her, I said, I want that. I'm going to fly to the Philippines and get it because it's cheaper there. So $3,800. Now, of course, if you got somebody doing higher skills, it's still, we're talking less than 5 figures for most people in the Philippines.
Is there anything that you use to find more VAs that are like more proactive, not just
Man, it's just like finding employees here. You just got to go through the process. I like virtualstaff.ph. Nathaniel has a bunch too. Nathaniel, which site do you use?
Online jobs.
Onlinejobs.com. He has
.ph.
.ph. So he actually has a bunch, and he flew to the Philippines. He was just there not too long ago, so he could answer offline. Maybe go talk to him, but
Cool.
I haven't been there yet.
What was the first one?
Virtualstaff.ph.
And what was the other one?
Onlinejobs.ph. These are great questions. Do I have time for any more? I don't want to keep running.
Apprentice, how long should it take, typical for apprentice program?
Okay, so he's asking about the apprenticeship program. So Dan helped me implement an apprentice program, and I do mine based on what he taught. I do mine just a little different, not a ton. But my apprenticeship program is a 90-day unpaid internship to start, 15 to 20 hours a week required. So that's where it starts. And so 15 to 20 hours, they're not going to get paid, but our fair exchange is they get to go everywhere I go if they want. They get to sit, like if my VA or my assistant or apprentice had started, he'd be here. I would have paid for him to come sit in the back of the room with Bellwether's permission, of course. But I would bring him, and I would also answer every question he's got. I would do everything for him. That 90 days, he gets a $1 million education, the start of one anyway, for 90 days. And then the second 90 days, it goes to a small weekly stipend around $200 a week. Like, it's not much. Again, this is not a job, this is an educational opportunity. Like, he could go to MTSU and take courses in entrepreneurship and pay $40,000 a year for it. Or he could learn from somebody who did it, not this professor who's never done it. And I'm gonna show him how to do it, and I'm gonna give him $200 a week to pay for gas in his Mustang. Like, I'm gonna put some gas in his thing. And then at the 6 month, because 90-90, that leads us to 6 month, I sit that person down, and they know this ahead of time, by the way. I sit that person down at the 6 month and say, okay, we're either gonna continue or we're not. And if we're gonna continue, there are 4 possible exits on this apprenticeship, 4. Number 1, you could quit and go do your own thing and we never talk again, or I bless you, like, we're good. Nobody quit and is angry, but we're done. That's 1. The second one is he could just become an employee of one of my companies. Like he could say, I like working for you, I just wanna work for you. The third would be he could want to partner, run one of my companies. I want to be a partner in this company. And so he could run that for me, and I give him a sliver of equity, and then he runs it for me. And fourth, he could say, I have an idea, Jason, and I want you to invest with me, and then I invest with him, and I become a partner in his business. And so at the 6 month mark, he has to indicate which of those he's most likely to choose. He could change his mind, but I want to know what track we're on. Like, are you wanting to work here? Are you going to quit? You want me to invest in you? You're going to run my companies. And then the second 6 months goes to a revenue share commission base where he can earn as much as, I don't cap it, but as much as he helps me bring in business. I'm not going to pay him just for being there, but if he helps me increase my revenue $100 grand a month, I'm going to give the guy probably $5 or $6 grand of that. Like, just to say, hey, thank you for doing this. So that's the way I run my programs. Yes, sir.
So you covered, which I really appreciate, is a lot of information. You covered delegation as one of the keys to your freedom of time. What's the bullet point of some of the other items that you would include in that list?
Thank you for asking. So there are 4 core principles that I teach on how to exit without exiting. That's kind of my thing, exit without exiting. The first is embrace delegation, which we just talked briefly about. There's so much more to it, but that's the brief. The second is eliminate stress. And I believe that you can't run a successful business if you're stressed out and your employees are stressed out, and you certainly can't exit one where everybody's stressed out. The third is establish systems and processes. Establish systems and processes. It is not the most important thing. And again, it was great to hear Dan say, I never heard him say that before, but like in a startup, you don't do systems and processes out of the gate. Why? Because you gotta change, you gotta pivot. Well, every coach out there that I've ever heard, if they're talking to somebody that wants to exit, we gotta get your systems and processes in place. Well, listen, if you don't know how to delegate and you're stressed out, their system process ain't gonna work. So that's why I put it third. And specifically, I pay attention to the sales process, because I believe that if you're gonna exit, you have to have predictable revenue, and the sales process is the most important. And then the fourth is invest in people. Invest in people. And then that starts the loop again, because it goes back to that. And so what I talk about in my programs are how to invest in a person. And there's 2 meanings of invest. One is the financial side, where I put money or time into something with the expectation of a profitable return. But the other word invest means to furnish with power, authority, and rank. And so there's a lot of culture in that. And there's this thing called the power of 10%, which is really cool. I'm glad you asked this, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but the power of 10% says this, that 10% of any people group, 10% is what it takes to sway the majority, only 10. And there was Rensselaer, Nathaniel, how do you say it? Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute did a study on this and said this thing. They said, look, if you don't have at least 10%, that will never become majority. So what does that tell us? Well, in our culture, if we have 10 or 11 employees, if you got one negative Nelly, he could kill it. He could kill your company. So I teach how to invest in people the right way. So thank you for asking.
Thank you.
All right, I guess my time is probably up, so. While I'm getting this mic set up, if you are on any of these platforms, take a picture of the screen and follow the real Jason Duncan. And if you take a picture of me up here talking, send it to me in that platform. That tells me you were here. That's kind of cool. I try to do that to the speakers. So if you spoke up here, I took a picture of you and I sent it to you. So I try to do that. So return the love.
Tag you.
Return the love. That's even better. See, if all y'all tag me, people think I'm famous. That's cool. Y'all gotta tag. I'll be. All right. So in 2020, I exited the daily operations of the company I started as an unemployed school teacher in 2010. And for the first 4 months after I left daily operations, I experienced an identity crisis. For 10 years, I'd introduced myself as the president and CEO of Energy Lighting Services. I carried business cards with my name on it, with the company's logo and that title. I went to events. I introduced myself as the president and CEO of ELS. On my LinkedIn profile, my Instagram, everywhere, that's who I was. And so now, while I still own the company, I wasn't the president and CEO because I'd relinquished those responsibilities to other people. I delegated that out. So who am I? What am I supposed to do? Why am I here? What am I now going to do? Now, I didn't leave the company just to start coaching. That was not the plan. Now, I had been coaching entrepreneurs for about 5 or 6 years prior to that, but only because I was successful in my space, and they said, hey, let me go sit down with him. He's the CEO of this company, built a pretty good company, and I would coach those people. So, but I really didn't know what I was going to do next. All I knew is I was glad to be exited without exiting. Exit without exiting. That was kind of the thing. And I worked with a coach and a mentor to help me figure that out. And I went through several exercises with him, trying to figure out who am I? What is my purpose in life? And a year and a half, maybe a year prior to that, I'd sat down at a conference very much like this. And one of the speakers at the conference went through an exercise version of which I'm going to share with you today about finding purpose. And so, you know how sometimes you hear stuff, like you've heard a whole bunch of stuff yesterday, today. Bill and I were sitting outside smoking cigars last night, and he goes, man, all the stuff I've learned this week. And I'm like, dude, we've been here one day. It does seem like a week, but you know, you hear this stuff and it doesn't lock in until later. Well, so I heard that, and now I was at a place where it had to lock in for me, and so I had to find out what my purpose was. And I'm very excited to say that I did figure it out. And at the end of the presentation today, one of the last things I'm going to do is I'm going to show you in writing what mine is, and I read this every day. Every day. Not a day happens that I don't read my purpose and remind myself of my definite chief purpose in life. So I'm going to show you that. And then I'm going to end, so I'll tell you how I'm going to end. One of you, I'm going to run the exercise. I've got an exercise. This is very tactical, and one of you I'll help. We'll run this exercise through. Now I want to set expectations. We're not going to figure it out in the 2 minutes I work with you, but it will give you a sense of how this thing plays out in your life. Okay? So the question is, what is your true purpose? You know, and most people don't know what it is. And what I found as a coach and as an entrepreneur coach specifically is that I talk to lots of entrepreneurs who believe that whatever the hell it is they're doing now is their purpose. Now, I'm not going to ask you to identify yourself, because it's probably everybody in the room. And what that is called is synthetic happiness. Because you don't know any other option, therefore you're happy with it. Like if your parents happen to be generous enough and had the money to buy you a car, the first car when you turned 16, it probably wasn't the one you wanted. But when you got it and started driving it, it was bad. It was the best car you could ever imagine, right? This is the best for most of us. For most of us, right? But just because you're in software, or you're a coach, or you're in fitness, or you're in law, or you're whatever it is, just because you're in that and you're good at it and you're succeeding at it, that doesn't mean that's your purpose. And so I have been a pastor for 13 years. I've been a school teacher for 4. I've been an entrepreneur at this time now for 10. And I was like, that's not my purpose. Running a lighting company is not my purpose in life. Even though I was good at it, I made a lot of money at it, and we did a lot of cool stuff, that wasn't my purpose. So I want to share with you a version, the JD version of a concept known in Japan as Ikigai. Anybody ever heard of this? A couple of people, that's good. So Ikigai is a Japanese concept meaning your life's meaning, your life's purpose. Now, in true American fashion, we had to take the Japanese concept and put parameters or rules around it, so and matrices and stuff, which is a version of what I want to do today. But there's all different versions of what Ikigai actually means to us in the Western American culture. And so here's my experience, and what I'm going to share with you today is that I believe that there are 4 questions that lead to you finding your true purpose. And if you answer these 4 questions, which I'm going to share with you today, you will be on the road to find it. But again, proper expectations, just because we go through this exercise today, doesn't likely mean that's your purpose. It's going to take a while to figure it out. It took me a couple of years, but I was forced into figuring it out. I adapted into it, law of adaptation, when I was no longer running the company, and synthetic happiness wasn't interfering with the idea. This matrix is something that I've been working on for a while. And in my mastermind, the Exeter Club, one of the things I teach my guys is like, hey, this is what we do to get out and to exit our companies. And I work with guys to do that. A couple of guys in the room are part of my mastermind. A couple of you probably will be at some point, I hope. But one of the things I kept promising was, we'll get to your true purpose at some point, because I'm in the middle of mine. I'm living the non-exitable business. This is the business I'm doing now. I don't care if I put 100 hours a week, because it's why I'm on earth. Now I've got other methods I'm making money at, but this, I don't care that I do 40 hours. I don't care that I do 60. Now you're saying, me too. Now you're lying, because you're not living your purpose. I found my 2% of people on earth know their purpose. Only 2. And Napoleon Hill's been saying that since the 1930s. Only 2%, and it's still true today. So how many people are in the room? Who knows the number? Who knows the number? How many people are here? 80?
69.
All right. What's 2% of 69 people who are math?
Less than 2.
1.5.
1.5.
Yeah.
1.5.
One person. And guess what? I'm him. I'm the guy. Now, I'm not saying that to be arrogant. Just in mathematical, statistical, I'm the guy. But let me share with you these 4 questions. I'm going to show you what the 4 questions are, and then we're going to uncover, and then we'll kind of dig them out, right? First question is, do you have passion for this? Now, if you don't get these 4 questions on this slide, don't worry, they're going to show up a bunch. So, and you can take a picture too. Second question is, do you have power to do this? The third question is, can you profit from this? And the 4th question, is this the legacy you want to leave? But if you'll notice, all those arrows point to the next question. They're not really in order per se. So you can start anywhere. So if you're in a place where you are in a software company, you are in a healthcare company, you are a coach, you can start wherever. You might say, well, can I profit from what I'm doing now? That's a good place to start. Okay, and then you go to the next one, then you go to the next one. You just move around. Now, I believe that this question is the most important and is the kind of the linchpin of it all, which is where I'm going to start. Okay? But what I want to do is I want to kind of put this into this, like, what is your true purpose? What is your true purpose? So whatever you think that it is, we're going to call it this. So the rest of the day, the word this on the slides are going to be in red, and whatever you think your thing is, that's this. So you got it? So we'll have this communication. No barriers of communication. Like Timothy said, make it very clear. Very, very clear. So this is your true purpose. Whatever this is for you, E, whatever it is, whatever this is. And we're sunshine. Okay? So I told you I was going to try to answer your question. If I don't, you get what you pay for. Whatever. You didn't pay me. Pay somebody. Refunds are handled by Eric. So we're going to talk about what this is. So the first question I want to dial in on is, do you have passion for this? And so there are sub-questions under this that help us understand what this means to have passion. Because most people think about passion that it means I like it, that I love it, that I want more of it, as Tim McGraw said. Or whoever. Who said that? So was it Tim McGraw?
Yeah.
I am from Nashville, but I'm not that big of a country star. So country fan. So here are some sub-questions to consider. Does this give you joy? Whatever this is, does that thing give you joy? That's a good starting place to decide, does this, and we're trying to figure out our passion, so we're running this through a filter. And if you think this is teaching school, or if you think this is being a healthcare executive, if you think this is being a day trader, whatever this is, the first question, do I have passion for it? In other words, does it give me joy? Does this give me energy? This is actually the one that changed what I thought my purpose was. That little simple question. Because God created me to be a teacher. I hope you can see that I'm a pretty good teacher. I love teaching. But at the time I was doing this, I thought, there ain't no way I'm going back to making $38,000 a year teaching 8th grade American history. I don't care if teaching is my purpose. That's not how I'm. But it did give me energy. I originally thought that my purpose was sales because I was really good at it, and I'd sold millions of dollars worth of stuff. And I had a funny conversation with Amy yesterday about, I hate sales. I hope I never have to sell anything again. Like, I can help you, give me money. That's good. That's all I can say. I don't want to sell anymore. So sales doesn't give me energy. Teaching does. So you got to ask yourself, whatever this is, does it give you energy? When you do it, does time evaporate? Can you do it when you're tired and yet stand up at the end and go, wow, that felt great? I think I got 4 hours of sleep last night. But right now, I'm not tired.
Yeah.
Third question is, are you willing to suffer for this? You know why that question is there? Because the original Latin word for passion means willing to suffer. The passion of the Christ wasn't about Jesus being happy and joyful about going to the cross. We call it the passion of the Christ because he was willing to suffer for something. And so one of the things we all have to do to determine what our true purpose in life is are we willing to suffer for it? And when I was running a very successful lighting company, it felt good. I was making good money, had a great team, and there were lots of part of it that did give me a little, some joy. And there were times that it gave me energy to kind of pour into people, but I wasn't willing to suffer anymore. Like, I did my suffering. I'm not willing to do it. If stuff goes bad, I'm not doing it. And really, the final decision to not ever go back into a CEO role was COVID. Like, when COVID happened, our company took a hit. Cash flow went to 0 in 48 hours. It was tough. And I was at this moment of decision, this inflection point in my life. I'd already made a decision to exit. Now COVID's wrecking everything. My 4 VPs aren't entrepreneurs who can't manage that type of crisis. And my coach at the time said, do you want to go back in? This is your chance. And I'm like, hell no, because I'm not willing to suffer. I wasn't. So that wasn't my purpose. So when we get done with this question, do you have passion for this? This helps give us some framework for it. There's 2 answers. It's a yes or it's a no, right? I mean, it's a binary question. Yes, no. If you answer yes to whatever this is, so John, whatever you think this is, does it give me do I have passion for it? Yes. Okay. If it's yes, go to the next question. If it's no, this is not your purpose. It's pretty simple. Now, you're not going to get 100% of this, as I said, proper expectations in the 45 minutes or so that I'm going to talk about this. I have a whole course I take you through 6 weeks of this, and it's got, like, I have a document that has 50 questions just to help you discover your passion, just that alone. And we go through this together. So do you have passion for this? That's question, it's not really question number 1, but I think it's the linchpin to everything. Because if you don't have passion, you're not willing to suffer, it doesn't matter what it is. All right, second question, do you have power for this? You have power to do this. What does the word power mean? Well, I am an old pastor, used to, former pastor, I'm not old, but a former pastor, and we like alliteration, so prophet, power, passion, legacy. I looked it up in Word Hippo. I couldn't find a P word for legacy that makes sense, so I just kept it legacy. But do you have power to do, I even asked ChatGPT and it said no. So do you have power to do this? What does that mean? Well, first of all, do you have specialized skills in this? And Dan's been referring to a little bit of this earlier. Remember, like the ability to do stuff? Do you have the ability? Do you have the special skills to do it? And also, do you have specialized knowledge to do this? So remember, we're trying to think about what our true purpose. Why are we on earth? Why are we here? I'm not a fatalistic guy. I don't think God put you here to accomplish a specific, like, this thing has to happen. I'm not that guy. I know Calvinists believe that stuff. That's not me. I don't believe that. But nevertheless, there's something that you've been given charge over you can accomplish. And so do you have specialized skills for that? Do you have the specialized knowledge for that? And you're thinking, maybe I don't. Maybe you have the gift of it. Maybe that's what it is. You just have this gift in it. Okay, so now, what's the binary question? Yes? Go to the next question. So you're on track, right? You have passion for whatever this is, and you have the power. Yes, I have the power. You're getting there. You might be on to something with your true purpose in life. But what if you say no? Well, then there's a secondary question like that you got to get to first. Like, is there a clear and obvious path for you to get the power to do this? Because you may have super passion about doing this, whatever this is. You're like, I'm super passionate about it. I don't really have the specialized skills. I don't have the specialized knowledge. I'm not really gifted in it. But there's a clear path where I can make this happen. So let's look at this. Let's look at this sub-question. Is there a clear and obvious path for you to do this, whatever this is? So is there a way for you to obtain the skills where you could excel at that? So if you're passionate about software development, but you don't have the skills to do it, but you know Harish, right? And you can enroll in his $10,000 course he sells for $1,000 a day. So, can you get there? Well, is there a way? Yeah, there's probably a way. Is there a way for you to obtain the knowledge? Like, is there a way to get it? Well, you may want to be passionate about something that you don't have a clear path to get the knowledge to. Well, are you able to excel at this, whatever this is, without being especially gifted at this? There are going to be times you don't have to be gifted at something to be your purpose. Now, I think it's more often than not those things are intertwined, but you also have to be very passionate about it. Because I'm gifted at things that I'm not really that passionate about. And I'm passionate about things I'm not really gifted at. These things have to be answered in the affirmative to know this is your purpose. So, yes, go to the next question. No, this is not your true purpose. Pretty simple, right? So if you have passion for it, yes, that's great. Do you have power to do it? I don't. Well, then the next question, well, maybe, can I get the power? No, I can't. Okay, definitely not your purpose. I don't care how passionate you are. The people who say just follow your passion are bullshitting you. Following your passion, listen, what you tell an 18-year-old kid to follow their passion. Chucky, how many 18-year-old kids try to get in the NFL and don't make it? What's the number?
Well,
it's a percentage.
Of all high school athletes, it's like 0.
Okay, it starts with the wrong number. Okay, don't tell an 18-year-old kid just to follow his passion. Now, that doesn't mean he shouldn't at least explore it, but that doesn't mean that's his purpose in life. Chucky, as he shared, he was able to transmute this passion for playing football into success. But he's part of the 0, whatever the next number is, of the people who are able to make that happen. And not only that, but look what he's done with it. He used that as a leverage point to move to something else. Football wasn't his purpose in life.
No.
See? But and we're going to get there in just a second. All right, so now let's go to this third question. Can you profit from this? This one is the one that had my mind melt more than anything else. I couldn't figure this out because Ikigai has nothing to do in that about money. True story. I'm going through with a mastermind that I'm part of. There's just 2 of us, and that's the minimum number for mastermind, by the way. And we're studying Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, the workbook. I highly recommend it. I wish I was an affiliate because I would make money from it, but I'm not. But go buy it. It's really good. We're going through this together. And one of the exercises in the workbook says to list some things that will help you achieve your definite chief aim in life, your definite purpose in life. And so I started listing all the things, and I said, you know what? I need to find an Ikigai coach. I found one. His name is Norm Tam, and he lives in Canada somewhere, and he's Japanese. I don't know if the Ikigai and him being Japanese, I didn't talk to him about that specifically, but he was offering free 1-hour calls to discover your Ikigai, and so I signed up. And just as a small plug, he's coming to Nashville to do an event with me in May, so if anyone wants to come to Nashville, it'll be a small ticket price. I'm not trying to make money, I just want to cover the cost, like $50 or something. So if you want to come, it's in May, I think May 17th or something. But I called Norm, and I had my first call with Norm, and I told him what I was trying to do. I was working through this stuff, and I said, help me understand this, because I'm living in the center of my true purpose in life, my passion, power, my giftings, all this stuff. And he goes, okay, tell me more. And so I told him, and he's like, wow. He goes, do you know how many people can say what you said? I said, yeah, 2%. And he goes, yeah, you're right. So I'm one of the 2%, and he recognized it as a coach. And so we kept this conversation going, and I said, you know what would be cool if you come to Nashville and we do this thing together? And he was like, maybe. Like he's just talking to some dude on the phone for the first time. So we stayed in touch, and then like I was preparing for, Dan asked me to do this talk because he knew this is part of his curriculum that I've been working on. And I didn't have this part figured out until last Tuesday, honestly. So nothing like being on a deadline to make it work, right? The law of resistance, you gotta have that resistance pushing back. So I called Norm and I said, Norm, dude, I can't figure out this profit part, because I had shared it with a bunch of people, my matrix, and the last guy I shared it with, like thinking I was just one final time before it doesn't make sense to somebody, and the guy said, so if my purpose is digging wells in Africa, how's that gonna work? And my mind went, done. Then I can't speak next weekend because I don't have a talk. So I called Norm and we ran through this, and Norm helped me figure it out. So I'm going to show you what he and I figured out together. Well, he figured it out, and I as a good teacher, put it together. But So first of all, can you profit from this? So we're going to start with the assumption that whatever this is, it is something you can profit from. But the reality is, can you monetize it? Is what you think your purpose is monetizable? Can you make money from it? Second question, can this be a viable business? Can this be a viable business? And then the final sub-question, this is, do others see value in this? Because if they don't see value in it, you can't profit from it. Binary question, right? So, yes, go to the next question. So if you are doing your job, like you're reselling equipment and stuff to other people, and you're like, I have a passion for this, I've got the specialized skills, I have the power for it, and I can profit from it, okay, great, move on. But if you're one of the people that are going, I want to teach English as a second language in India, like, okay, this is a difficult, how do I profit from that? So let's do this. So no, well then, is there another viable way to fund this that won't rob your ability to do this? So let's pull that back a little bit. Let's pull that back. So is there another viable way to fund this so that won't rob you of your ability to do this? So for those of you right now who didn't answer yes, I can profit from the thing I think is my purpose, this slide is for you. So if you're not that person, just check your phone for text messages. So here's the three sub-questions. Is there a way for you to cover your needs while you pursue this? Your dimes, right? We've been talking about dimes and dollars. So if you think that your purpose is something that you can't necessarily profit from, ask yourself, is there some other way I can cover my daily needs? And so as Dan's been talking about, if you've got a $10,000 nut that you have to cover every month, and you want to go give shoes to people in Africa, and you can't really profit from that, is there some other way that you can cover your 10 grand a month that you need? Maybe. Will this other way require less than 20 hours per week? Now we're trying to get to an affirmative question here. Dan has been saying, what? The law says you 20 hours to cover your dimes. So if I ran this past my wife right before I got on the airplane, because she's interested in figuring hers out, and you know, husbands can't teach their wives about their purpose, but I at least wanted to run this past her. I was like, what do you think? And she said, and so she was pushing back on this. She goes, well, if my purpose is teaching school, which is not for her, but she knew I was a teacher, so it was this thing. She said, if my purpose is teaching school, how am I going to do it? How am I going to do anything else in not less than 20 hours? Well, then maybe that's not your purpose. We don't know. Like, that's why we ask these questions. And then the third question, is this other way sustainable over a long period of time? Like you may have a purpose you think is your purpose, and you're like, I can't profit from it specifically, but I could do this other thing, and it will only take 20 hours a week, but it's probably only viable for about 6 months because you just burn out, or the technology changes, or the fad goes away. It's got to be sustainable over a long period of time. So binary questions, of course. If you can answer yes, then prepare a plan to fund this and go to the next question. So if you believe whatever this is your purpose, you can't technically profit from it, but there is a way for you to cover it in less than 20 hours a week and it's sustainable, then make a plan to pursue that other way to fund your purpose. This is what Norm helped me figure out, because I couldn't figure this out. Because if you wanted to dig wells, you wanted to give away shoes, you wanted to teach English as a second language, and you can't profit from it, then this whole thing falls. But this makes sense of it, right? Now, what if you say no? Well, this is not your true purpose. I don't care what you think and how passionate you might be. If you can't make money from it or through it or because of it or to support it, it ain't your purpose. Because we are not put on earth to live in poverty.
Amen.
Now, that doesn't mean we have to be a billionaire, but we can't make impact from a place of poverty. And for anybody that says, well, Mother Teresa didn't have any money, you don't know anything about the Catholic Church, do you? Jesus was unemployed, but had rich ladies around him. Serious, that's the truth. He had very wealthy women that were part of his inner circle that helped support him for 3 years as he changed the world and our calendars. For those of you who don't believe that he actually existed, I don't know, the whole world. What year is it? Okay, he lived. You may not believe he's God, but he was there. So this ain't your purpose if you can't profit from it and or find a way to profit through it. You know what I mean? Now, let's go to the next question. This is the fourth of the questions, not necessarily final because it kind of goes in a circle. Is this the legacy that you want to leave? And of course, questions of, does this align with your values? Very crass example that my wife said not to use, but I'm going to anyway, is if you are passionate about creating pornographic films, I know it's bad. If you have the power, the specialized gifts and skills, and you can certainly profit from it, but it doesn't align with your values, it's not your thing. And if that is your thing, you shouldn't be a bellwether. Now, will this have lasting impact beyond my lifetime? Right?
Until you get an antibiotic.
This thing that you think is your purpose,
Oh my God.
does this thing that you think is your purpose, will it have lasting impact beyond you? Because that's generally what a purpose is. It's something that outlasts us. You know? And my wife was like, well, what if my purpose is just raising my kids? Okay. Well, that was a purpose for a while. That purpose has to change because our kids are 22 and 20 years old. Our son doesn't live with us anymore. He's out on his own. Our daughter's 20, never at home, got 2 jobs, lots of friends. We don't have to parent her anymore. So if in fact that was her purpose, which I happen to believe that it was, because she stayed home with the kids, we were very blessed to be able to do that, it's no longer the purpose. We got to find that next thing. Will it have lasting impact beyond your lifetime? And then will this positively impact your community, region, or even world? And I think that's the coolest attraction to Bellwether and the idea of creating generational wealth than anything else is that it's about impact and influence. Those 2 words, those are also start with the same letter, I, like alliteration, impact and influence. You know, we're here to make impact. And the only way we do that is by having influence. Binary question. If you can answer yes, go to the next question. Now notice it doesn't say that is 100% your thing, because you might have started here and you need to move around. But if it's a no, this is not your true purpose. If it doesn't align with your values, doesn't have a lasting impact on your lifetime, and will this positively impact your community, region, or world, it's not your purpose. Now this question should help those of you who think that whatever it is you're doing now is your purpose because you're drunk on the synthetic happiness of your current experience. Think about, does what you're doing now, like when I was running a lighting company, does that align with my values? It doesn't not align, but it's not the thing. It's not like, what am I'm selling light bulbs, for goodness sake. Will it have a lasting impact beyond my lifetime? I guess if you wanted to get technical, yeah, LEDs last a long time. But that's not what this means. And then will this positively impact my community, region, or world? And again, if you're a tree hugger and you're all into the green stuff, which we can play on if we wanted to, yeah, there's an impact on the region. Like, I get it, but that's not really my purpose. You guys see where I'm going with this? So if we break this all down, we asked, did I answer yes to all the questions? Did you answer yes? So do you have passion for this? Do you have power to do this? Can you profit from it? Is this the legacy you want to leave? Yes. Binary question. Yes?
Yes.
Congratulations! That's probably your purpose. Very, very likely, actually. If it's no, then this is not your purpose, but there's an asterisk. Why? Because the profit thing. So don't just think that you can't, just because you can't profit from it doesn't mean it's not your purpose. You've got to go back to that, can I dig a couple of layers deep and get this thing funded some other way? You feel it? So now, these are the 4 questions. So if you didn't take the picture earlier, this is a good place to take a picture. Do you have passion for this? Do you have power to do this? Can you profit from this? Is this your legacy? If you can answer the affirmative to those 4 questions, then you probably found your purpose. Now, I will say that what I do when I take you through my course there's 50 questions in a workbook that we have on how to discover passion. Like really dig deep. What am I passionate about? Because it may not be as evident as you might at first think. And then I'll have another 50 questions on this, plus I take you through the Clifton Strength Finders. Anybody ever done this?
Yeah.
That's very powerful to figure out what you're good at, what your strengths are. So that's part of what I help people go through. So my 50 questions plus the Clifton Strengths. And then can you profit from this? You know, there's actually, shouldn't shock anybody to know that, especially bellwether folks, that there's financial metrics that you can check to whether or not this is gonna work. And then I got 50 questions around that, and then another 50 questions in another workbook about legacy. So this isn't, again, proper expectations. It's not a 45-minute talk and you're like, oh, and you walk out of here like I figured my thing out. That's not how it works. When I sat through this, a version of this talk with a coach in, I think it was early 2019. It's the first time I heard this. Like I thought it was sales, but I kept going back to that thing. It doesn't give me energy. I don't enjoy it, but I'm really good at it, right? But that doesn't mean anything. So it took me a long time to figure this stuff out. So I want to share with you my true purpose, because I told you that's what I was going to do at the beginning. So here's my true purpose: to use my gifts of teaching and leadership to help entrepreneurs figure out their purpose in life and get the results they want out of life. And if you notice, I didn't have to look at that to read it. I read this, say this every single day. This is my mission. This is my mission in life. This is my purpose. This is what Jason Duncan, the real Jason Duncan, this is what he does. This is my non-exitable business. I've had haters, because I go through that resistance on social media, you know, the 4 stages of influence that we've talked about. Haters like, well, if you're so teaching people to exit that exit, why are you doing so many social media videos?
Haters.
Next. Like, it doesn't matter to me, dude. I don't stand up to the scrutiny of idiots. I'm not worried about it. I am using the 2 gifts that I think are my primary gifts in life that God gave me to use my gifts of teaching and leadership to help others, specifically entrepreneurs, but others, find their true purpose and achieve the results they want out of life. That's why I'm on earth. And I'm happy to say I got a couple of clients in the room, and I think that they know that, like intuitively, because they've worked with me for so long. They see it in me. This is why I'm on earth. This is it. This is what I'll do forever. I still will buy other businesses, won't I, Dan? I will still invest in other things because generational wealth and impact, right? Now, here's what happens next. If you go another layer, let's say you figure out your purpose. How do you exercise it? That's a whole other question, isn't it? Like if I figure out my purpose is teaching, how do I exercise teaching? That was the mind, kind of the pretzel that I got into. Is like, if it's teaching, how do I do that? Because I made 38 grand the last year I taught school. And the 3rd year I was an entrepreneur, my tax bill was 60 grand. I had a bad business partner. I'm just telling you, because you shouldn't, like if I'd had a good business partner who knew better, I shouldn't have had a tax bill. But yet here I was, the $60,000 tax bill, the 2nd year into my entrepreneurial experience. And I was like on suicide watch for 6 weeks. I thought I was going to jail, man. Like, how was I going to pay? I didn't know how this was going to work. But then, how to exercise the purpose is the next level. How do you live it out? Finding it out is one thing. How do you live it out? So let me explain this. The current way that I'm exercising my purpose is this. I help hardworking, stressed out, overworked entrepreneurs figure out how to take a step back from day-to-day operations, do their business in 10 hours a week so they can find their true purpose. Again, you notice I didn't read that because I say it every day. This is my current way. 10 years from now, probably won't be doing this. Maybe 5. Who knows? But this is how I'm currently doing it. This is how I'm currently doing it. So you will have to figure your purpose out and then figure out, well, how am I going to exercise that? Because it may be different. Now, this is where vision comes in. And I know Chucky had his talk about mission and vision. And I'm going to share with you my vision. Like, the way I see vision is that vision's about seeing. And so vision's about what you want to be. Mission's about what you do. So what I do is on the last screen, my personal vision. I got a personal and a professional. So there's two levels. So personal vision, this is me. My personal vision is to be known as a man who made Jesus and his wife happy. Like at the end of my life, you can put that on my tombstone, but I'm gonna be cremated, so I probably won't have one, but like whatever, put it on your locket. Like I wanna be known as that guy. That's what I want personally. But my professional vision, I shared with you yesterday. You guys remember? Anybody wanna take a shot at what I said yesterday? What's my vision? What I want to do?
Helping 100,000 entrepreneurs get out of the entrepreneurship.
Yeah, 100,000 entrepreneurs escape the ironic prison of entrepreneurship. And what was the other part?
10,000.
To escape what? Poverty and mediocrity through the vehicle of entrepreneurship. Again, I say this every day. For a little hack for those of you that pray every day, there's an app called PrayerMate, prayermate.app. I've used it for a decade. And so you can subscribe to prayer lists, or you can put your own in. And at the end of all my prayers, every morning I use that app. And I'll put this stuff in there. So every morning it's part of the process, part of my morning rhythm, part of everything I do every morning. Now, this is what I want to see happen. And if you want to go to this with me, let's go. This is what I do, and I'll help you. Now, I told you that I was going to help somebody for a couple minutes flesh out this exercise. Who wants to be that person? Sunshine, I'm going to offer you first because I told you I'd answer it, but you do not have to accept if you don't want to do it, because I don't want to put anybody on the spot. So the first question, Sunshine, is what do you think this is?
Okay.
And you don't have to be right, and you probably won't be.
I think I first thought it had to do with kids. Like, I feel like we treat our kids like shit. We're all grown. And I want to, like, bring back our respect and communication to them because they're more important than we think they are. But then also remember, we're also just big-ass kids. But recently, I'm realizing I might also have to add adults, even though I don't like them.
All right, transparency. I didn't expect anything less after meeting her. All right, so Sunshine, let's identify this in something easy to say. So who wants to re-say back to her what she just said about the kid part? Leave the adults out, but what with kid? What did she say her purpose she thought it might be with kids? Somebody, this is part of the process that actually makes it real for us.
Treat our kids.
Treat kids better.
Bringing manners back to everyday life.
Any of those resonate?
Yeah, they're cute. I like them both.
Okay. So, but you're gonna, so it's somehow, it's not, you can't just magically make kids have manners. Like, you gotta do something. There's gonna be something. What is it you're gonna do with that? Is it an education program, after school program? Is it you're gonna become a school teacher? What is it that you're gonna do?
I think it will have to be a program, and I think it might turn more digital than I thought it would.
Okay, great idea, right? Okay, so digital curriculum?
Yeah.
Digital curriculum to train kids to have
Establish their value system.
I think it's just to regain communication, because my big focus is special needs.
Okay,
And
so
I-
let's
yeah.
do that, because I don't want to take up, Dan's got 18 hours left of teaching. We need to move on. All right, so Sunshine is saying, my true purpose is to create and deliver a digital communication curriculum or device or something to bring manners back to kids, communication skills back to kids, so that they have a proper relationship with adults. Yeah, that's a very complicated. We could hone that down.
Respect was the key.
Kids could be.
Yeah, we need to respect them.
So this is why it takes a lot longer than this to figure this
Yeah,
out. But
sure.
but let's say whatever this is. So now let's ask, do you have a passion for that?
Obsessed.
Will you suffer for it? Like if you don't make money for 4 years, are you gonna
I
keep
would.
doing it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good test question. That doesn't mean she answered it the right way, but that's a good test question. Now she might have answered it honestly, but that doesn't make it right. You guys understand the difference? All right, so let's assume the answer to that is yes, she has passion for it. All right, do you have the specialized skills, knowledge, and gifting to do what you're trying to do?
Mm-hmm.
So you can build software?
That's the part I know how.
Oh. Okay, so you don't have all of the power to do it. You have the passion to do it, but you lack some of the power.
Yeah.
So then what are the sub-questions? What did I say on power? What are the
Is
sub-questions?
there a clear path to Haresh?
Is there a clear path? So is there a clear path? And
He's
I
right
think
there.
the answer, of course, is
Yeah.
yeah, there's a clear path. Now, third question. can you profit from it?
Scary, yeah.
Well, what do you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a definite maybe because we all know apps make money and kids don't have money, but who has money? And donors. Donors who've had a run-in with a snot-nosed kid who's like, yeah, I'll help you figure out how to make kids happy. So there is a possible yes to this profit, but let's assume for a minute that there isn't a profit in it,
Okay.
because I think it'll help the exercise a little bit better. What were the sub-questions on that? The sub-question was, you can't profit from it.
Find a revenue stream that within less than 20 hours a week could fund that.
Yeah, can you cover your dimes in under 20 hours a week so that it doesn't interfere with your ability to do your true purpose?
For a long time.
It's happening now.
What's your other thing? Because you gave when you said
Yeah.
over there were two things. What were they?
Yeah, everything.
Entertainment
And then that.
and then this.
Yeah.
So can you do whatever entertainment you do in less than 20 hours a week to cover all your needs and a little extra so that you can do this? She said yeah. She said yeah. Which means it's like, I'm already doing that. Like,
Yeah.
it's fine. Okay, then the next question. Is this the legacy you want to leave the world? Like, when it's all over, you want people to look back and say, Sunshine helped kids respect adults, or whatever the phrase is. Is that what you want to leave?
Yeah.
Is that aligned with your values and who you are?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what's the likelihood of that thing we just talked with her about being her purpose? What's the likelihood? Really high. Questions, how does that feel?
Oh, I'm good. Just rephrasing them. Yeah.
You good? So, I'm gonna tell you the truth. She sat over there today, and I was on my phone when she asked the question, and Dan goes, Jason, what do you think? And I was like, I looked at him like, I didn't hear what she said. And he was kind enough not to call me out, but I'll call myself out. And so he said, repeat the question. And then I answered it honestly, like, I'll cover that in this, so I wasn't being flippant. But Eric said after it was that session was over, he goes, I don't think we answered that lady's question. But I think we just did. I think, well, at least we gave some really good direction, right? Because Eric was concerned that we just left you alone. So Eric had good heart for you. So I'm gonna do this. So this is something that I do. This is a brand new course that I put together called 40 Days to Find Your True Purpose, to Live Your Legacy. And I start this is gonna start on March the 2nd. And it's 40 days, it's 6 1-hour Zoom sessions with me and a group of people that we'll go through this together. And you're gonna get a copy of my book, Exit Without Exiting. You're gonna get a copy of Strength Finders. We're gonna do that together. You get 4 workbooks that go through the passion, the power, the profit, and the legacy. And we're gonna do it together. So it's a group interactive kind of cohort model. This starts on March 2nd, which is next Thursday, day before my birthday. And you can take a picture of this, but this course, the value of this course is $10,040 based on all the stuff you get, access to me, etc., based on my, what I would normally charge. I'm doing this course for $3,500, like $3,497, like normally, because I'm just launching it, just to test it. But Bellwether, the standard, like if you don't sign up this weekend, the standard is you're going to get $1,000 off the normal price, because it's a Bellwether. I want to give back to Bellwether, so it'd be $2,500 normally. But if you sign up now while you're here, then I'm going to do it for just another $500 off, so $2,000 to do it. It's 6 weeks. It starts on March 2nd. So if you can't do it on March 2nd, it's every Thursday morning, 9:30 a.m. Central for an hour. Then you can sign up later and go through it later. But this is part of my purpose. My purpose is to help stressed out, overworked entrepreneurs take a step back from their business, operate 10 hours less, so that they can find their true purpose. So this is what I want to help you with. Now, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to go through this, but that's what we're going to talk about. So before I turn the mic back over to Dan, any kind of follow-up processing questions, anything to talk about, just those 4 questions, anything at all? Jan.
So I know that you've taken some time to find your true purpose, but you mentioned something that made me kind of think. You mentioned that your wife, you believed that at the time that she was raising the kids, that was her true purpose. but now it has changed. So do you think that your true purpose could possibly change as things evolve and change for you?
Oh yeah, of course. I think though that if you go back to the way I identified mine, part of the two gifts that I said that I had, the gifts of teaching and leadership. If you read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, I went through that book for a year. All 2020, I went through that book, and I shot 52 videos on that book. I put them on my YouTube channel, and they sucked because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to get into the video game. Now I'm pretty good at it. But I processed it, and part of what that book teaches is to find your mission in life, your personal mission statement, which is what I think your purpose is. And he teaches to start with what is your primary gift that you're going to exercise. So that's why I said my gifts of teaching and leadership. So while the way I exercise my purpose may change from time to time, those are the things I'll do until Jesus returns or until I drop dead. That's it. Like, I'll do those two things. So how I exercise it will be different, yes. So if you go back and say, well, was my wife's purpose to be a mom, or was there something bigger, and that was the way she exercised at that point? That's the way. That's a good question. E?
What was your, for people who've done Strength Finders, what was your top strength on Strength Finders, and how did you convert it into your purpose, as you said?
So that's a great question. You put me on the spot. Strategizer, relator, maximizer, influence. I can't remember. They give you the top 5.
But strategizer was number 1?
Yeah, strategizer was number 1, which makes sense because I'm a teacher. I can take concepts and pull them and strategize them. And there's a guy in Bellwether who does 52. What's this? You know what I'm talking about? He's here in California. That does the other 39 pieces of the Street Finder. Is he know what I'm talking about? Brandon
Cottingham? No, Brandon Harbaugh?
I don't know, he's here in California, but he takes, Street Finders gives you the top 5, but there's 39, I think, total, or something like that. And he does he'll take and give you a report on others and how they line up. And I did that, it was really cool. I can't remember his name. But he's coming and doing a webinar with me not too far in the future, so you guys will be invited. Yes, sir.
I'm pretty sure on my purpose, because what I do every day is help people that want to dig the wells in Africa get long-term funding. So, if you've got anybody.
Okay.